You have probably heard that without selenium, your thyroid does not function properly. And now you are wondering, should you buy another bottle, or is this just a marketing trick? Today, we will unmask one of the most deceptive trace elements. You do not need much selenium, but if it is missing, everything starts to fall apart. But before we go through the 10 alarming symptoms of deficiency, I want to tell you a striking fact. For a long time, selenium was considered not a lifesaver, but a deadly poison. As early as the 13th century, the traveler Marco Polo described a strange disease of horses in China. Without understanding the cause, and today we know, it was a case of severe poisoning due to excess of this mineral in the soil. But the name selenium appeared much later. In 1817, the famous chemist Jöns Jakob Berzelius noticed a strange sediment at a factory. At first, the scientist thought he had discovered tellurium, an element named after the earth, tellus. But when he realized that it was a different substance, he decided not to separate the brothers and named the new element after the moon. Selenium, from the Greek selene. However, the romantic name did not save the mineral's reputation. For a long time, it was considered exclusively a poison. Remember the 1930s in the United States. Farmers were losing livestock en masse. Cows were losing hair in patches. Their joints became deformed. They could not walk. In those years, selenium was officially considered a toxic contaminant and was placed in the same category as arsenic. The great turning point came only in 1957. Scientist Klaus Schwartz conducted experiments and discovered that adding even negligibly small doses of selenium to the diet completely protected rats' livers from destruction. This discovery turned medicine upside down. We realized the only difference between illness and health is dosage. As Paracelsus said, all things are poison, and nothing is without poison. Only the dose makes a thing not a poison. And this applies to selenium first and foremost. It is safe within a very narrow range. Too little, bad. Too much, also bad. It is a very tricky element that must be approached with intelligence. So, we have established, selenium is a trace element with jewelry-level precision in dosing and a very narrow safety range. But how do you understand that your body is catastrophically lacking it? The biochemistry of selenium is inseparably linked to two critically important processes. First, it is the function of the thyroid hormone T3, the main gas pedal of your metabolism. Second, it is the activity of glutathione peroxidase. This is not just a complicated word. It is your personal internal shield against cancer, premature aging, and oxidative stress. That is why the symptoms of selenium deficiency are a mirror reflection of how your thyroid function fades and your antioxidant defense weakens. Let us go through 10 signs that literally scream that it is time to check the level of this mineral. 1. Persistent fatigue that does not go away. This is not the kind of fatigue that disappears after a cup of coffee or a good night's sleep on the weekend. Imagine this state. You sleep 8 hours, eat properly, try to energize yourself at the gym, but the feeling of internal power outage remains. Why does this happen? One of the reasons lies in selenium. It protects our mitochondria, the power stations of the cells. If selenium is low, mitochondria work with interruptions. Energy is produced at half capacity, and you fall into a chronic energy deficit. Often, this is the first warning sign of hidden hypothyroidism. 2. Frequent colds and viral infections. If you get sick more than 3 to 4 times a year, if any cold drags on for weeks, and a cough does not go away for months, your immune system is unarmed. Studies confirm that selenium enhances the activity of immune cells and helps the body cope with viral load. With its deficiency, the immune response becomes less effective, inflammation drags on, recovery happens more slowly. This is not a magic pill against viruses, but it is one of the elements of immune resilience. 3. Thyroid problems. Here, selenium is especially important. The thyroid is the largest consumer of selenium. It needs it for 2 things: to convert inactive T4 into active T3 and to protect the gland tissue itself from aggressive free radicals. It is especially important to check selenium levels in hypothyroidism, elevated autoimmune thyroiditis, including Hashimoto's thyroiditis. In one scientific publication, the authors reported that with adequate selenium levels, the risk of developing hypothyroidism was 25% lower, and the risk of autoimmune thyroiditis was as much as 53% lower. Without selenium, inflammation in the gland increases, and antibody levels creep upward. 4. Hair loss and brittle nails. Selenium is involved in keratin synthesis. Its deficiency may manifest as diffuse hair loss, thinning of the eyebrows, dry skin, flaking brittle nails, the appearance of white spots on the nail plate. Important: if your ferritin and vitamin D are normal, but your hair continues to leave your head, look for selenium deficiency. In addition, various dermatological changes may be symptoms of selenium deficiency. A 2020 study showed that low selenium saturation levels are more common in people suffering from acne, psoriasis, and atopic dermatitis. 5. Brain fog and decreased concentration. Selenium affects brain function through antioxidant protection of neurons. When it is lacking, cognitive endurance declines. You feel brain overheating during ordinary tasks, memory begins to fail, and concentration scatters. This is especially noticeable after age 40 and against the background of prolonged stress. 6. Muscle weakness and decreased endurance. Selenium is necessary for normal function of muscle cells. With pronounced deficiency, myopathy may develop. This is a condition where it is physically difficult for you to climb stairs, grip strength in your hands noticeably decreases, and there is a feeling of cotton legs. Many attribute this to age or lack of training, but often the cause is a basic trace element deficiency. 7. Impaired reproductive function in men. For men, selenium is a matter of quality of life for future children. It is responsible for the assembly quality of sperm, their motility, proper shape, and protection of DNA from damage. When preparing for pregnancy, evaluating selenium in a man is one of the most important tasks. 8. Heart problems. The first evidence of the role of selenium in cardiovascular system function was obtained through the discovery of the connection between deficiency of this element and the so-called Keshan disease, which is a severe form of cardiomyopathy found in selenium-poor regions of China. Fortunately, such extreme forms are rare, and in addition to selenium deficiency, their occurrence is also viral infection. But even moderate deficiency can increase oxidative stress in the heart muscle, accelerate the death of cardiomyocytes, increase cardiovascular risks. Therefore, in chronic heart diseases, evaluating micronutrient status makes sense. It should also be added that a 2021 study showed, with adequate selenium saturation, the risk of heart disease is 34% lower. 9. Elevated markers of inflammation. If inflammatory markers are consistently elevated in your tests, C-reactive protein, elevated antibodies, signs of chronic inflammation, this may reflect impaired antioxidant defense. Selenium helps reduce oxidative stress and inflammation. 10. You live in a region with low selenium content in the soil. This is an underestimated factor. In a number of countries, natural selenium deficiency in the soil has been noted, for example in some regions of Europe and Asia. This means that even with a normal diet, a person may receive less selenium than required. Who needs to check selenium right now? Remember this list: everyone who has thyroid diagnoses, AIT hypothyroidism, couples planning pregnancy, especially men, people with chronic fatigue and brain fog, those who follow veganism or strict diets, patients with intestinal diseases, where absorption is impaired a priori. So we have found symptoms in ourselves. What next? Run to the pharmacy? Absolutely not. Remember Paracelsus and poison? If you start taking selenium just like that, you risk getting a toxic effect that is worse than the deficiency itself. How should you properly get tested? Why can ordinary blood serum lie to you? Which forms of selenium actually work and which do not? And how do you create a replenishment plan without causing harm? We will discuss this in detail in the next video. Subscribe so you do not miss the second part, where we move to a specific action plan. And if you would like, write in the comments, how many of the 10 signs did you find in yourself? Stay healthy.